Hey, good morning, guys. It's a beautiful Saturday in September the 18th, Saturday 2021, and I have a little bit of a dilemma on my hands with my 2016 Corvette Z06. You know, the car over the winter sits a lot, so the in-dash reminder for an oil change has went down to 0% life left on the oil change, and has been telling me I needed an oil change now for about 1,000 miles. It's just now, this morning, turned over 3,000 miles since my last oil change. I know a lot of that has to do with time and moisture and trips, and I'm not exactly sure how the onboard computer calculates when you need an oil change, but typically these modern cars with synthetic oil don't require an oil change every 3,000 miles. But you know, I want to stay on top of things. I want to keep my supercharged 6.2 liter V8 running at top condition, so I like to keep the oil change. Now, I'm pretty handy with cars. You know, I got my start in the business, in the automotive business, when I was 18. I was a Chevrolet service advisor for a little over 10 years. So, you know, I'm familiar with cars. I've never been a line mechanic, but you know, I'm handy with cars. I've had a lot of hot rods. I've got my El Camino that you've probably seen on the channel, which I've done, you know, about 95% of all the work that I did in restoring and resto modifying the El Camino myself with help from my dad, and I've had my my good friend, a service technician, you know, help me change the transmission and do a couple things, but most everything on that car I've done by myself. So I know cars. I know how to change oil. I change the oil on all my vans, on my work vans, on my pickup, on my tractor, you know, on my motorcycle. I pretty much take care of most of that stuff myself. But with the Corvette, you know, I thought, you know, this is an expensive car. I'm going to let the dealer take care of most of the service on the Corvette. And for the first 2 oil changes, that's exactly what I did. And a lot of times you didn't even have to make an appointment. You just roll right in and they, oh, yes, sir, you know, 30 minutes and you're in and out with an oil change. Well, here recently I tried calling my closest dealership, and in the Indianapolis area there's several Chevrolet dealers, there's multiple GM dealers, there's, I mean, countless number of places you can take it, but I like to take the car to Chevrolet, and the closest one to me on the north side of Indianapolis, I called them. I was like, yeah, you know, I need to get an oil change, you know, can I come on in and get one? They're like, no, sir, yeah, you'll have to schedule an appointment. Okay, you know, no problem, let's schedule an appointment. Well, it was 3 weeks for an oil change. And I'm thinking, what the f is going on where you have to wait 3 weeks for an oil change on a car? I was like, that's not going to happen. So I called around to a couple other dealers. I called the dealer where I bought the car, which is quite a drive from my house. It's about 45 minutes. And they could get it right in, but I'd have to drop it off and leave it. I couldn't just wait on it. And I was like, oh man, you know, I just don't have time for that. So I hem-hauled around, and I was like, you know, I called my technician buddy because he's got a lift in his home shop, and I said, hey man, what do you think about doing an oil change on my Corvette? He's like, nah, I'm staying away from that car. I don't blame him. You know, it's an expensive car. If something would happen, he'd drop it off the lift or damage it, and he was not real familiar with the Corvettes anyway, so he was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So I was like, you know, I'm going to do it myself. I mean, it can't be that difficult, and it's not. One thing I am going to do, which typically I use Mobil 1 on all my cars, but on the Corvette, I'm just going to stick with the full synthetic Dexos 2 5W30 motor oil. That's what's recommended. I'm going to use the actual oil filter. I think is just a, I don't know what the number is on the regular one. It's a 64, but there's some letters in front of it. But when I went to my GM supplier, they recommended I use this UPF 64R, and I'm not really sure what the difference is. It's Ultra Gold or Ultra Guard Gold Let's see if it has anything. Provides a durable, high-quality filter. Removes engine damage, which all oil filters do that. Well, there's something special about it because it was about 3 times the money. But anyhow, I bought it. Not a big deal. High performance. But with the Z06 and with the Stingray models, with the Z51 package and the dry sump oiling system, it's a little bit different on changing the oil and or checking the oil. My car right now is fully warm, but it's been sitting in here for about 30 minutes. And the checking of the oil procedure, just to check the level, is completely different than a regular car with an oil pan and oil in the engine. You can check a regular car cold, hot, it makes no difference. But with the dry sump oiling system, if you check the engine oil when it's cold and been sitting for quite some time, you'll pull the stick out and it'll look like you have no oil in it. And I've heard stories of people that have done that and thought, wow, I'm way low on oil, and add 3 or 4 quarts of oil and blow oil all over the place because it wasn't low on oil. But let's take a look. This is the passenger side of the car. This is where you fill the oil. This is the oil dipstick. Now the engine is fully hot, but it's been sitting for about 30 minutes. So let's take a look at what the oil level shows right now. Now, since I am due for an oil change, it wouldn't surprise me if it's low. But let's see. We'll take it out, wipe it off. Now, I don't know if you can see. You probably won't be able to see it on the stick. But here's the mark, the hash marks with it hot. That's the minimum, that's the maximum. And right now, it's showing right on the bottom of the hash marks. And it is pretty dirty. So I'm going to go ahead and start the car. Even though it is fully warm, so I'm going to start it and just let it run to get the oil pumped back up. For an accurate check, it has to be fully warm with the engine up to about 175 degrees, with the engine oil to 175 degrees, which you can tell from the temperature, oil temperature gauge in the dash. And you have to turn it off and let it sit a few minutes, but not more than 10 or 15 minutes. If you let it sit too long, then you're not going to get an accurate reading. So let's start it up and get things flowing. Okay, according to the gauge, it looks like it's pretty darn close to 170 to 175 degrees engine oil temperature. So we'll turn it off for a few minutes and see if we can get an accurate check before we actually change the oil. That's been 10 minutes, guys. The car is fully warm. I let it run, brought the engine oil up to 175 degrees, and now I've let it sit for 10 minutes. Let's check the level. Okay, where are we at now? Okay, so it's showing just a little bit higher than what it was when it was had sat for over 30 minutes. So the engine oil is low, but it is due for an oil change. So at least now we know how to check the oil to get an accurate reading. All right, the next dilemma is, can you jack these cars up without a lift? Can you do it on the floor? Well, we're going to find out. Now, I did a little bit of research, and they make non-slip jacking pads that you can buy from Amazon, and they have lots of different types, and I've actually ordered some, but they haven't came in yet. But underneath the car, on both sides, in the front and the rear, there's an oval slot that's made to put the jacking pad, and if I can get a picture of one, I'll try to post it in this video. That it goes into the slot and then it turns and it stays there, and that's where you put your automotive lift or your floor jack. So we're going to see if we can get this done without one. So we're Gonna get underneath there and try to jack it up. Now I tell you, I don't know if it'll show up, but if I can get the camera in the right position, I'm gonna try to show you the little oval slot in the frame that is made for the jack points on the car. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Yeah, you can see the plastic, and then right here there's an oval slot in the frame, and that's your jacking points. And the little non-slip pads that I ordered, it goes up into that slot and then it turns, and then it's just a round puck that gives you a good point for floor jacks or automotive lifts. But I'm going to use that same position to place my floor jack. Okay, now since I don't have the little jacking piece, and with the ground effects, I'm gonna have to make a modification and use a block of wood, because right now I can't make contact with the jacking point with the jack without hitting the ground effects. So I'm gonna take a block of wood and put it on top of the jack stand, and that should give me enough room to get it going. And a 2x4 sitting this way is the perfect width to fit in between the two plastic covers right over the little oval cutout in the frame for the jack positions. Let's take a look. You can see a little positioning there, and the wood fits right in position. So you know, in between these two plastic covers, that if you have your board set right there, it's in the perfect position. Well, can you change the oil on the ground on a C7 Corvette in your garage without a lift? We're gonna find out. I've got the Corvette up in the air on 4 jack stands, and I have the jack stands at their lowest level, and I would really like to have it up a little bit higher, but I'm a little nervous because I don't have the anti-slip pads yet that I ordered from Amazon. They should be here in a couple of days. I used some 2x4s right in the jacking locations, and I got it up in the air. You know, it sure would be nice if it was a little bit higher, but I think I can get underneath there and do it. And this is a tight squeeze under here, guys. Let's get a look. You can see on the dry sump system, you have 2 drain plugs, one here, one here. This one drains out what's in the tank, from what I understand. This one drains out what little bit is held in the pan. Yeah, when I do this next time, I'll have the frame mount jacking points, and I'll feel a lot more comfortable raising this up higher. Okay, well, let's get this sucker draining. Hopefully I'll not get it all over myself, but we've got a 15mm wrench. I'm gonna need 2 hands for this job. Yeah, this isn't fun trying to do this on the ground, but when it has to be done, it has to be done. And since I couldn't get it into the dealer, which is really ridiculous, it's one of the biggest in Indianapolis and across the country. I won't say the name of the place, but he's one of the biggest automotive dealers in the country. and I could not get my Z06 into his Chevrolet dealership for 3 weeks for an oil change. Are you freaking kidding me? And we'll let that drain out, and we'll hit the other one. So it can be done, guys. An oil change on a C7 Z06 with dry sump oil can be done on the ground without a lift at home. Yeah, looks like it's coming to the end of the tank. Yeah, when I get my non-slip adapters for the frame slots, I'll feel more comfortable jacking this up higher. If it was up a few more notches, I'd be a lot more comfortable. It's just about done. You want to make sure you don't over tighten your drain plugs. A lot of people get carried away with tightening of your drain plugs. You can strip them out. The factory recommends, I believe it's 20 foot-pounds. I'm not going to get out the torque wrench, but I've got a pretty good internal wrench. A lot of people really try to put the pressure on them, which isn't necessary. Let's see if we can get this other one busted loose with one arm. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good sign that the dealer that changed the oil the last time didn't over tighten it. Let me see if I'm gonna catch the oil. I think so. Yeah, this is not fun to do so low to the ground trying to hold a camera. Drain plug number 2. There we go. Yeah, a few little drips isn't gonna hurt anything. And again, I'll complain that I couldn't get it into my dealer. One of the biggest names in automotive dealerships in the country for 3 weeks for a freaking oil change. Okay, again, you're supposed to do about 20 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna snug it up. Now I'm gonna have to turn off the camera to, well, I might not have to turn it off. Let's see how tight they put the oil filter on. Well, believe it or not, they didn't have it on too tight. That's kind of hard to believe. And you can expect a little bit of oil to drip out of there. Let that run out for a bit. I always want to make sure that the gasket comes off with the filter, which it did. All right, now we'll get our filter out. And something you always want to do is lubricate the gasket, the rubber seal. Now what I've always done is I go ahead and partially fill the oil filter. Maybe a little bit more difficult to keep it from spilling since I'm so low to the ground. Then take a little bit of that oil and give your seal a little greasing. That helps the filter go on properly, and it also helps it, keeps it from sticking on there when you need to take it off the next time. Now I did use the UPF 64R. It's a high performance Ultra Guard Gold. What the advantage is, I'm not really sure, but it's more expensive. Okay, now the proper torque, there is actually a torque setting for the oil filter. It's 22 foot-pounds. Now I'm not going to get my torque wrench out. A lot of people just go hand tight, and that's really all you need to do, but I like to snug it just a little bit over hand tight. Just a little bit over hand tight. And we're ready to get out from underneath there. Okay guys, the oil capacity is 9.6 quarts. Why they didn't just go ahead and make it 10 quarts, I don't know. It's pretty dumb, but let's go ahead and start adding the oil. Now on all my regular cars, I use Mobil 1 on my work vans and any other car I have, except, well, I use Royal Purple on my El Camino racing oil. But on the Corvette, I'm going to stick with the GM full synthetic, however you say it, Dexos approved Generation 2 5W30. Quart number 1. Make sure I'm not spilling any. Nope. It's going right down the tank. There's 3. Alright, number 4. Never had a car that held so much oil. 8. And 9. Now I'm going to put 9 quarts in, and then I'll run it and bring it up to temperature, and then start check and fill to get the 9.6. Now, just for curiosity's sake, let's see what the stick reads right now without running the car. Okay, the stick reads way over full. Let's get in, reset the oil change monitor, and fire it up. Let it run. Let's see. Yeah, oil change 0%. So we press the right hand. You press the right hand arrow, and it goes to oil life, and you just press reset, and it's 100%. Now let's go back to, you press the left hand, go to performance, oil temperature. Now this is going to take quite a bit of running of the engine, so I'm going to close the hood up, let it run, come up to operating temperature, then we'll check the oil again and top it off. Alright, we got her warming up. I want to take a look underneath, make sure we're not losing any oil. Yeah, everything's clean and dry. Okay, let's see where we're at, guys. Looks like we're pretty much there. You know, a few degrees one way or the other, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. But it's probably between 165 and 175, somewhere in there. All right, so now we just need to let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then we'll check it. Now, just out of curiosity's sake, let's check it right now. Okay, so they say you need to wait 5 or 10 minutes, but not more than 15. And let's see where it's at. Without letting it sit at all, it's showing about a half a quart low, which that's about right, because I still need to add 6/10 of a quart. So maybe it isn't so critical to let it sit after you've brought temperature. Okay, it's been sitting about 10 minutes. So let's see if the oil level has changed. And it has not. It's still about there. So if you let it sit too long and it gets cold, then you're not going to get an accurate count. But when you, right after an oil change, with it hot, if you turn off the engine and check the oil immediately, you don't have to let it sit. Now I guess it might have went down a fraction. Maybe a fraction. Alright, let's go ahead and see if we can top it off. Start with about a half a quart. That might be it right there, guys. It's full right on the money. Right on the full mark. Doesn't get any more perfect than that. Yep, perfectly full. Well, there you go, guys. It can be done. You can change the oil on your C7 Corvette, be it a Z06 or a Stingray with Z51 and dry sump oiling, at home in the garage with no special tools. I guess that's not 100% true. You do need a pretty low profile floor jack, and I would highly recommend that you buy the anti-slip jack mounts that are special made to go right up in the oval groove in the frame. I didn't have those. I ordered some from Amazon, but I just used a little block of 2x4 and got the job done. It was not easy to get underneath there because I only raised the car up the minimum amount as far as I could on the lowest position on my jack stands, but we got the job done. So there you go. I hope that helps out, guys. Have a good one. We did it, guys. No damage to the car. It can be done in the garage.